Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Priyanka and I help you unleash the power of law of attraction and create the life that you want. So today I have a very amazing guest with me, TJ Power. Thank you so much, TJ. Welcome to the channel. And we are going to talk about mindfulness today. So before I start and we start talking about the topic, TJ, if you would just introduce yourself a little bit to all of us.
Hello, so my name is TJ Fowler, as you've just kindly mentioned, and I work in this space of mindfulness. I work with a range of people, corporate people, women on their journey through cancer, young people, and I have a program by which I try and help people to understand how their minds work so they can navigate this pretty unusual modern world that we're now living in. And one of the core components of that program is mindfulness. And I think it's an incredible tool to facilitate change within our mind.
Right. Oh, that's really amazing. So, talking about, as you said, the influence of mind in our modern world, how important you think is mindfulness in today's world? Because with everything that's going on, and I think people tend to get into depression and feelings of anxiety and all those things nowadays. So, how do you think that being mindfulness can be effective in all these situations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the modern world is full of a lot of stimulation. We consume a lot of stuff in the news. We get a lot of messages. We're working a lot. We're working extremely fast. So we have a lot going on in our mind, which is an incredible feat that humans can do that. However, I really think that it's resulted in a lot of overstimulation for humans. And I think it's wearing our minds out. And I think particularly with this situation right now, I think we've got a lot of information in the news that can kind of scare our body and lead our thought processes down quite fearful thinking patterns. And what mindfulness is so amazing at doing is just making you more familiar with how your thoughts work. So I think many people are kind of running on autopilot. If they consume a piece of information and it stresses them out, they then journey down feeling stressed or worried or anxious for 10, 20, 30 minutes. It might be that might be the case. And what mindfulness teaches you to do through becoming more familiar and being able to observe how your thinking patterns work, it teaches you this ability to recognize when your mind is going towards tough directions and think, how could I pause for a moment, recognize and understand my mind is going into negative thinking, and how could I respond to this in a better way that's more conducive to my well-being?
Right. I think that's a very important point. How do you respond rather than react, right? It's very easy to react to situations and it's difficult when you're responding to a certain situation. So, there are like around 60,000 thoughts which runs through our mind every single day, right? And it's obviously not possible for us to control all those kind of thoughts, right? So what strategy, would you suggest that how can somebody start being mindful of the thoughts that are running through their minds?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think with mindfulness, the key is to start with very small periods of time each day. Mm-hmm. So I think if someone had never experienced mindfulness before, I think often one of the reasons people don't continue with it is they try out a 10 to 15 minute guided practice on YouTube or on an app, and then they think, God, that was actually quite tough. It felt kind of weird being alone with my thoughts. I couldn't feel my breathing. I couldn't feel my body. This is hell. I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. And I think that's one of the situations that happens with mindfulness a lot. So my recommendation would be to start with a very simple sort of 1 to 2 minutes. And an app called Insight Timer, I think, is the best for just setting a simple timer with a nice sort of background nature sound and having just a bell that can go off at the end. And in that 2 minutes, simply begin the process of, first of all, slowly breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth to calm your autonomic nervous system, get that parasympathetic turning on, to just settle yourself. And actually, I think, and I really recommend to people, in that breathing period, actually not trying to stop your thoughts or think only about your breathing or anything like that. I just think do the breathing and allow it to settle the system. I think many of us these days are living in what's called sympathetic overdrive, kind of a state of over arousal and stress. And I think that sort of breathing can just begin to balance us back down. So in that first 30 seconds to a minute, not trying to be mindful or do anything other than just breathe and slow the system down. Once you feel like the system is beginning to settle, I think it's a really good idea to then begin thinking, what are the specific sensations that I experience when I'm breathing? And then begin to think, rather than doing a body scan and going head to toe and maybe having some challenges of, well, I can't feel that bit of my body, so I must be terrible at mindfulness, and that sort of thought pattern that people get. Rather, just bring your awareness into the experience of sensation itself and think, can I feel anything in my body at all right now? Can I feel my feet on the floor? Can I feel my legs on this chair? Can I feel my back on this chair? And just allow yourself to see if you can experience anything. And I think starting with a really simple mindfulness practice like that for 2 or 3 minutes is really good. And I think the key to understand is that people get very frustrated when they can't focus their attention on something. It's like, oh God, I must be so bad at this mindfulness thing. I think what's important to recognize is our attention span these days is very, very poor in general, because the way in which we use our phones and stuff, the speed in which we navigate WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, like it's really breaking down our attention span. So it's hardly surprising it's hard to focus on something these days. And what I think is actually really powerful about mindfulness is I actually don't think it's in the bits where you're focused that you get the benefits. I actually think it's in the moments that you're distracted. You recognize that you've been distracted. Okay, I'm thinking about my day, or I'm thinking about a relationship or a conversation with someone, I'm distracted. In the moment that comes into your awareness and you think, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that mindfulness thing, you just pause for a moment, you tell yourself, good job for actually even recognizing that you were distracted, because that's a success in itself, because this stuff is challenging. And then move your attention back. And I think what's so powerful is every time that we complete this loop of focusing our attention, getting distracted, noticing we're distracted, and moving our attention back, I think that's like a bicep curl for our brain's ability to become more aware of when our attention is moving involuntarily towards something we don't desire, and learning to move it back. So how that kind of ties back into what we said at the start is, if you are navigating your day and you do read some news and you notice, okay, my thoughts are getting quite stressed out, or you have an argument with someone and you can feel that arousal in your body and negative thinking coming, whatever it may be that creates stress or worry within your body. When we consistently practice for a few minutes each day and gradually increase the time we practice it for, our awareness of how our thinking kind of reacts to different experiences massively improves. And that means that in those moments, we can notice within 30 seconds rather than 30 minutes that, okay, I'm going to pause, bring my awareness back to this breathing pattern, this slow breathing pattern that's going to calm the system down. And can I respond to this in a way that's conducive to my mind, not sort of distracting our attention away and kind of just pushing the thought or the emotion down into us.
Right. Yeah, that's I think very, very important. Acceptance is very, very, very important. As you were saying, that we need to accept that whatever thoughts are running, and we need to be okay with the fact that yes, the very first day we are not going to be the master of our mind and just suddenly start controlling all the thoughts. Right? It's been like you're doing something for the last 10 years or 20 years. Your thoughts are on autopilot, but then suddenly you try controlling them. It's not going to happen in one day. That's so right. How do you think, like the feeling which we talk about, the gut feeling, like which comes from within, and how is it related to being mindful? Because a lot of the time people, misunderstand, or they can't distinguish the fact that if something is coming from a negative or a thought pattern, or something is coming from the gut feeling. How do you think that's related?
Yeah, so I think this gut feeling and this gut, I think, is going to be huge in the future. I think it's growing fast now, but I could really see gut health becoming sort of the next mental health conversation. I think mental health is really at the forefront right now, and I think gut health could become just as huge, because I think it's a really, really key component of our health. Now, I think the first thing to understand about the gut is we have a similar amount of neurons. That's kind of a component of our body that we have in our brain that receives information and creates movement. We have the same amount of neurons in our gut as a cat does in its brain. Now, a cat is an incredibly intelligent animal within our world. It's evolved through millions of years. It's still here. It's in our homes. It's in the jungles. Cats are a bright animal, and we have that level of intelligence within our stomach. And I think for many people, it's actually not been recognized yet how much this gut feeling is actually a feeling.
True thing, yes.
Humans, of course, have intuitively known that there's a feeling there because we created this phrase of gut feeling. And when we're nervous for an experience, we get butterflies in our stomach. And when we feel really worried about something, sometimes we have pain within our tummy. So I think humans have known for a long time gut feeling is there, and science is kind of catching up, recognizing actually how much sort of activity is taking place. Now, with your question of how does mindfulness help? I think a lot of intuition comes from within our gut. I think a lot of our intuitive belief systems and understanding comes from there. I think our mind has experienced everything it has throughout our life, and it's kind of shaped the way in which it thinks about the world. And that's why I think when we look at our gut feeling doesn't have eyes and ears and hasn't had all the influence of what we kind of consume within our logical brain. And I think when we learn to, in situations where we're making important decisions, trying to decide how we navigate a breakup or a tough conversation with a colleague or anything like that, the more we can learn to connect to that instinctive gut feeling, I think the more we'll actually navigate life in a better way, because that gut feeling usually actually just wants kind of the best for your being. I think it kind of actually just wants your being to be well, and it doesn't have all the logical thinking process that we have up top. So one thing I really recommend is when you're in the mindfulness practices and you're trying to see if you can feel any sensations, rather than really program body scan down, just trying to see if you can experience anything within your body. I think it's really good to, if you get to the tummy, and this is hard, of course, at first, because it's something that we're not taught within our society to try and connect with. We're not taught to connect with our gut. However, I really, really believe it's probably possible, and probably like the connection could be incredibly strong. So when you're on your sort of resting your awareness on your tummy and that area of the body, I think pause for a moment and see if you can actually connect with that intuition. See if you can feel anything. It's hard to put it into words because we as a society, I don't think have even conceived what that feeling is yet. That's why we've just labeled it feeling. But just pause for a moment there and kind of recognize it's a thing and recognize you hear it. And I think that's an important thing to do. The other thing with this gut health and the idea of mindfulness is, in order to get our gut as healthy as possible, which is essential for our mental well-being, our gut produces 90% of our serotonin, our happiness and well-being neurotransmitter, produces 50% of our dopamine, which is our motivation and our reward system. We need a healthy gut in order to enable us to connect with it. So considering the quality of your food consumption is really important, the diversity of the foods you have, eating a really wide range of fruits and vegetables, and knowing that you're not just eating fruit and veg because it's something you heard in a textbook at school and you think it's supposed to be healthy. It really makes a difference to how our mind functions and our whole experience of life. And with mindfulness, I think one of the key things you learn as you become more mindfully aware of yourself, your own thought process, is you learn to become more compassionate. And compassion is huge in the world of health, physiologically and psychologically, makes a massive difference to our experience. And when you start to compassionately connect with your gut feeling, I think you then begin to consider more wisely what is the best stuff to be putting in this body. And actually, when you're eating food, paying attention to what you're consuming. So if you really are compassionately thinking about your gut health, it's not going to make you want to eat junk food every single day all the time. Of course, it doesn't mean we can't have treats and have moments where we like have exciting and fun meals and stuff. But I think on the large majority of time, connecting and compassionately approaching what we put into the gut to allow the gut feeling to express itself to its full potential, I think is really important.
I think that's amazing. I think that's one of the best things anybody has said. Like we don't usually connect to ourselves. We are so busy connecting with the outside things that we forget that the most important thing is to go within and connect with ourselves. And that's basically your gut feeling. That's, as you said, your belief system, that's everything that shapes that gut feeling. And we all have it, but we don't know how to use our intuitions. Sometimes we get that feeling that something wrong or something good is going to happen, and we just leave it there. We don't explore that more because we all have that ability. Some people call it being psychic, but it's just a gut feeling that you have, and it's there in every single person. And I think being mindful is always helps you tap into that zone of the gut feeling. Um, so we always talk about, right, there's a conscious mind of ours which is processing all these informations in everyday life, and then there is a subconscious mind as well, right, which actually shapes us, or rather to which the gut feeling is connected, right? How much do you think the relationship is between the conscious mind and that subconscious mind, and how can the information that you're processing, because when you're consciously making an effort to be mindful, how do you think that starts affecting our subconscious mind as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So I like that one. So for people listening, you may already understand this, but useful for anyone watching. Our conscious mind takes up about 5% of our mind, and our subconscious takes up about 95%. And conscious mind is all of our logical, attention-based behavior. So listening to this right now, that's your conscious mind being active. Whenever you're doing something, trying to figure something out, conscious mind. Subconscious mind is the emotional reactions, responses that we have to situations, our belief systems, our attitudes, everything that we've kind of experienced that shaped us as a human is within that subconscious mind. Now, I think one of the real challenges for people in this world is we fill up that subconscious naturally just through experiencing life. And often there's quite a lot of challenging things within that, difficulty at school or arguments with our parents when we were children, or anything that could have shaped our kind of whole belief system, the way we react to situations. All of that sort of stuff is stored in there. And with our current sort of way in which we're navigating life, I don't think there's many people are kind of exposing stuff from their subconscious mind in order to create change within it. Now, what I think is so powerful about the mindfulness practice, and I think if not one of the most essential components to why it's so valuable to us, is when we're sitting there in a mindfulness practice and we're observing our pattern of breathing, or we're observing a sensation in our body, visualizing something, holding a transcendental mantra meditation, whatever it may be, all that we know happens, unless you're some incredible monk, which probably isn't watching this video, is our attention moves around.
Yes.
And it's always jumping around. Even if you practice this stuff a lot, our mind will involuntarily move. And often, and especially during the more challenging moments in life, if we've had a relationship challenge or an argument or stress with work, whatever it may be, the things that create the movement in our mind are those experiences. So it might be a particular worry that we have. And what we begin to notice as we begin to observe this is we're focusing our attention there. Suddenly we think of one little thought, and suddenly we see a cascade of thoughts come with it. Suddenly our attention moves with it, and we go into a conversation and a dialogue with ourselves about
exactly that.
Then we realize, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that mindfulness thing eventually, however long that may be, and we bring our attention back. And we repeat this process over and over again, 10, 20 times in each practice, however many times. And the real key thing is the reaction that takes place when you're having a thought come in to distract you, that kind of emotional reaction, that response that we see within our mind, that is the subconscious mind taking place in action. And what's so valuable is you're actually then in kind of an observer position to actually see how your subconscious mind responds to things. And if you have this instinctive reaction, say you really struggle with criticism because your dad gave you some criticism when you were young and you've never quite been able to move through that, and it's always been something, So then even in the workplace, if someone's just trying to give you a bit of guidance and they criticize your work, suddenly you get this instinctive reaction come out from your body. If you learn in a mindfulness practice to notice that, okay, I am quite reactive to when my mind is critical, for example, and you start rehearsing, pausing when that happens, breathing through it as we do in the mindfulness practice, and responding in a way of acceptance, gratitude, compassion, you begin to reprogram that subconscious mind. And I think that is so transformative for our experience, because all of these different challenges that we have that are ingrained within the subconscious start coming to light and start coming into the conscious mind, and we start to rewire it. And then we can rewire those things that are repetitively bringing us down and help ourselves spend more time in that state of mind that we actually love being.
I think that's actually, everything that we talk about. So it's just like, the same thing, but we just use sometimes different words. When we say taking the leap of faith, it's like you're trying to make your subconscious mind come to that fact that there is better things irrespective of what the current situation or current circumstances are. And I think a lot of the time, as you said, like people go through bad breakups or any bad instances or situation, and they start taking that incident as like the ultimate thing of life, and then they just stop taking chances and taking opportunities that come. So that's where the feelings and all the guiding systems comes into place. And what we talk about in law of attraction is that your thoughts, your mind, the way you're feeling, the way you're thinking is actually what is creating your life. And as you said, when you think about one kind of thought, there is a cascade of thoughts which just keeps following. So if you're thinking something negative, you're going to keep experiencing that negative, because you're feeling that thing as if you're living it in that moment, even though that is something way beyond in the past. It has nothing to do with your present, but you keep living that as if you're experiencing that same pain, that same things again and again in your present moment. So you're going to keep attracting similar situations in life. But if you're mindful, and if you can train your mind to see the good, to see the positivity in every situations, your thought process would change gradually, and then that's going to trigger your subconscious mind, and that's going to again give you those kind of positive experiences in life. Thank you so much. And I think that was like one of the best interviews that I've done, and it's so much amazing to talk about everything that we talk about, visualization, because visualization, it is said that visualization is the preview of life's coming attraction. If you can see something in your mind, you can obviously attain it in your life. And there's a reason why we say it, right? Because it's ultimately your mind who is going to help you get there, but you have to learn to control your mind, or your mind will control you. So it's either that way.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So that was amazing. What's your last words? Not like last words in that way.
What's my...
So I really I don't mean that, but what would you like to say to all the viewers who's going to watch you, in terms of creating your life, being positive in life? And there's always something good in every situation, right? Even if you can't see it at this moment, there's always something hidden, something good. What do you have to say about that, PJ?
I think the first thing when you start thinking about these concepts is to start becoming more familiar with how your mind works. I think, like we said, this autopilot, kind of living within this fog of existence, the more you begin to become familiar with how your thoughts work, the more you then create this ability to, in those moments when you're entering that kind of low vibrational state from a past experience, whatever it may be, in those moments where you see those thoughts running down, you start running down with them. The more familiar you are, the more you can begin to catch those thoughts in their tracks. And the more thoughts we catch in the tracks that are kind of going to have that vibrational effect on us, the more we can kind of pull ourselves back. And once we become more aware, more familiar, then we get this window of opportunity to start being more gratifying to ourselves, more compassionate to ourselves. And that's rather than saying, why haven't I achieved this? Why haven't I done that? Why don't I look like this? And leading yourself into those worlds, I think you can begin to think, what have I actually done? What have I achieved in my life? Because for all of us, we've done loads. It's crazy how much all of us are doing these days. Humans are incredible. And I think the final thing to think of is start recognizing in yourself all the things you have done right, the things you do love about yourself, the people around you. Start replacing the negative thought patterns with those positive thought patterns. And I think that'll be transformative for your experience.
Exactly. Yeah, that's amazing, because that's what I keep telling my viewers. Be grateful. Be grateful instead of counting what you don't have. If you start jotting down what you have, you would see it excels beyond limitation. You have so much. You are blessed so much in life that when you start looking at them, you just start attracting one after the other things in life. So thank 100%. You so much.
Whatever we focus our attention on grows.
That's what counts in life, right?
Yeah.
See, even psychology says that same thing.
It does.
Right. So that was really amazing. Thank you so much for joining all of us today. And guys, thank you for watching this video. I will see you all soon again with another one. Till then, bye-bye.